Hello guys, this is Pavel from Laravel Daily with you again, and this is step 2, part 2 of the series where we're creating landlord and tenants management system in Laravel 5.6. The last step, as you see on the screen, was that we're trying to invite tenants into system by landlord, and we don't have tenants. So now we will create that relationship in the code and we will use it. So in the code we have this error. But we don't have tenants, and actually tenants are users of the system. If we look at the database here, there are users, there are roles, and actually role number 2, I think, role number 3 is tenants. But we don't have any relationship to landlord, where in fact we have to have a relationship to property, so where that tenant lives, right? So let's add this relationship. Make migration, add property ID to users table. It will be nullable, of course, because not all the users will have properties. Right-click migration. This is a new file, and let's copy something from other migration. I usually never write that by hand. I copy from somewhere. Table users, and we add integer field called property ID, unsigned, that's important for the foreign key, and nullable, that's important for our logic because it may be nullable. And then foreign key to properties. That's the part, actually this part is often missed by junior developers. They create a field and they assume that it's enough to have a foreign key. But this line is important to have foreign key with restrictions, like this thing, so you wouldn't be able to delete the parent record without touching child. And for down migrations, we don't need to do anything. Migrate. Yep, we have that new field. Let's check it in the database. Yeah, property ID is null. So in this case, for tenants, what we need to have for tenants list. Okay, tenants equals user something where property ID equals, actually we're in property IDs, it's properties of that developer, right? Of that landlord. There are multiple ways how we can handle this. Here I would like to scope the tenant role, but in fact, as I think about it, property ID will mean that it actually is tenant because no other roles will have property IDs available. So all we need is this. Properties we will get, actually we'll get it in line here. Property where user ID, I think it is called property. That's weird. We don't have even here property relationship to user. Oh, that's bad. Okay, let's do that. That's the beauty of live coding. I'm doing something on my way, and let's check the model. Property. Nope, we don't have anything assigned to property. So let's go back and let's do that first. Okay, comment that out. And same thing, make migration, add landlord ID to properties. Actually, let's call it user ID for consistency because it will lead to users table, properties table. We'll make migration, it will be another almost copy-paste thing. Okay, create it. Have this, we can copy actually from here. Schema table, properties, user ID here to table users. And in this case, it's not nullable because every property should have user, right? Yeah, so we create that. migrate. Oh, right, we have properties already, but we don't have users. That's another part that we will need to fix, but let's delete that row for now. And our migration should work. No. Oh, duplicate column, of course. I will explain the errors. So this part went well, but this part went not well. So in this case, we have the field, but we don't have foreign key. So for now, to fix that error easily, I will just comment that out, run migration. It will run only the second part and then log the migration as successful, and then I return it back. Right, now we have the field for user ID, but now we need to go a step back into properties CRUD for landlord. Actually, not for landlord, for both for landlord and for admin who create that property. So properties should have a user field, but if I'm creating a property as landlord, properties controller in store method, it should take the user ID. Thinking about it, let's remove properties creation from admin, and let's assume that it's all done by user, by landlord. Request save files, then request user ID equals auth ID. I think that will do. Let's try. Actually, for property, we need to make user ID fillable too. User ID, my property address something that's relevant, and we save. Undefined property ID. Okay, I think it's this then. User ID, fresh. It doesn't have a default value. Okay, that's weird. So it doesn't assign it. Oh well. Request all. I'll do it another way. I don't remember the syntax. Quite often, actually, junior developers think that more experienced developers, I wouldn't call myself exactly a senior, but 10 years of experience. So junior developers think that seniors know everything by heart. It's not the case. Everything is Googleable, searchable, copy and paste, and stuff like that. In my case, I tend to try things from my memory. Where it doesn't work, then I fix it. Okay, let's try again. Hooray, no error this time. And let's check if the user ID is actually filled in properly. Refresh. Yeah, we have user ID 3. Now we can go back to the tenants. And this is where we actually will filter properties. So property where user ID is landlord. Same user ID, I think it's called plug ID, get. Let's load that. I'll explain it in a minute. Class user not found. Oh, okay. User that. I love PHP Storm, by the way. It does autocomplete and auto something really well. Still undefined. Oh, of course, we need to compact here. Compact tenants. Great. Okay, so we have tenants list. For now, it's empty, and let's create new tenant. But for that, we have a different form. Remember from part 1, I've copied the property views into tenants, and now it's time to change it. So in tenants controller, create leads to properties create, which is wrong. It should be tenants create. And now let's open that tenants create. and we will change it into tenants thing, tenant store. We don't need files here. Global tenants title, create. We need name and email, basically 2 fields. So email, instead of text, it should be email here, email, email, this tenants. And that's it. I think we don't need this, and submit. We should be good. Refresh the page. Name and email, both required. Save here, great. Now in store, again, in store we need to change store properties request to store tenants request, right? Let's open store properties request and let's save that as store tenants request, right? I'll open that store tenants. We need to rename it store tenants, and this should be email required and email. And now we can use store tenants request, which will be again by PHP Storm. It will be automatically added here, and here can be deleted, this one. Tenants request, copy here, rename that one, and it should be okay instead of this. Now, instead of creating property, what we need to do, we don't need to save any files. We need to create a user, right? So, but for user, we need to have a password. So this gets a little more complicated. We need to create invitation. What I want to do here is invite the tenant, so send the email, and then the tenant would log in and set their password. So let's do that. So for that, for tenant invitation, I will use my another project. We have a demo project about auth invitations. So you can request invite, you can send the invitation link from admin, and only then people can register. We don't need exactly that, we only need the invitation token logic, which is something like this. So there is an invitation table with invitation token, which is totally random. And even then here we will not use the invitations as separate table, we will create invitation token field in the users table. So what will that mean, how the logic would work? So we'll add invitation token, which is nullable. So if the invitation token is nullable, then the user is active. If the invitation token is not null and contains some random value, then the invitation is not accepted and user cannot log in. So we go back to terminal and we add make migration, add invitation token to users table. Okay. And again, copy from here. Users, then string invitation token nullable here, and it probably will work. Oh, it's still generating automated classes. Meanwhile, in user model I will add invitation token to fillables. Okay, migrate should work now. Okay, we have a field called invitation token now, which is null. And now when creating a user from creating a tenant from landlord, by landlord, we need to do this user create, and the array should be something like this. Email comes from request email, actually name, except from name comes from request, then email this. Password is dummy. For now it's totally irrelevant because it's not active. Then remember token irrelevant again. Property ID, that's important. Property ID equals actually we don't set the property, it should be a field in the request. Anyway, request property ID, we'll add it soon, and invitation token equals that thing. That could be totally random anything, but I guess just random string of 32 symbols. Right, and then we redirect to tenants back. That won't work because of this, so let's add a property dropdown. So tenants create, in here we need to create a property dropdown. So label property, fields property, and will be property ID actually. This old property ID placeholder. And here we need the array of properties, I think. Properties, okay. And we need to pass the properties here. So properties, property by user ID equals user ID. Block, I think it's name and ID. I think it's this. And we pass that to the view with compact properties. I think we're good except for the translation. Global PHP, in tenants we have to have a field property. Let's go back to our form now. We don't need this anymore. Tenants. Invalid argument. So something is wrong with syntax here. Properties. Okay, probably it's not block items. Okay, should be good actually. Property. Oh, right, of course. It's the other way around. The parameters are wrong, and let's change it back. We don't need this. Yep, we're good. Property, and now we can choose property here, and let's try whether it will create a user. A dummy email. Save. Fingers crossed. Yep, we don't have error, but we don't have tenant either. So something is wrong here. We have a user, we have an invitation token, property ID is not set. Property ID is not set because it doesn't come here, or we didn't set of course we didn't set property ID for user as fillable. Let's try again. Property, and let's fill it with dummy data. Yes, we have it. Some data tables error too. All right. In generated data tables, I've deleted something. Tenants index. Tenants index. So we don't need this. So basically we need 3 fields. And that thing is missing. That. Probably that. Yep. we're good now. I remember the code correctly. So yeah, we have the list of the tenant and of the tenants, and the final step is actually doing those invitations. So after creating the user, we'll have to send the invite and make it work from the tenant, from the email. So tenant will get an email, click the link, and basically create their user. Okay, to send the invitation, we will use the Laravel invitation, Laravel notification functionality. I've opened the official documents, official documentation, and this is what we will launch. Design make notification. Oh, sorry, damn. It should be invoice paid. It should be invitation send. Okay, so new class, it should be in app notifications here, we don't need invoice paid. Right, invitation send, it should be almost empty except for some dummy mail message. So line, hello, please, hello, you're invited. You are invited into landlord's system. Please confirm your registration. And then action text with URL. Confirm, accept invitation probably. Accept invitation button with URL. With URL we will come up with a route by route, let's put it this way, invitation, auth invitation, I think, or let's put it another way, auth registration, no, actually auth invitation with the parameter of notifiable. What's that called? Invitation token. I'll explain that. Notifiable in Laravel notifications is who is notified, basically. In our case, it will be user. So in this parameter, automatically we'll have all the user object, and we will have access to the invitation token. And then thank you for using the application, blah, blah, blah. Now we need to create that route. So let's go to routes web. This get this invitation. Let's put it under register controller. Show invitation form auth invitation. So let's put auth invitation, and then put invitation token here. Invitation token. This. And then how to use that notification, we do this. So we create a user like this, and then user notify. What's the documentation? User notify. Oh, right, we need to add something to the user class, to the user model. To here, oh, it is notifiable by default. Use notifiable. Okay, so it is notifiable by default. Right, so yeah, I guess we can use it. New invitation send, like this, I think. And for the notification, I will use emails. By default, actually, in notification class, this is the channel where you can send. So by default, it's mail. You can add Slack or any other. So by email, I will use the email channel, and I will use Mailtrap specifically to get the email. So this is my Mailtrap credentials, and I'll add them to my .env file. So let's open .env. I'm using my homestead locally, so all I need to add here is, instead of those username and password, copy and paste those. Now I'll get the email to my Mailtrap. hopefully. Whatever is the recipient actually. So I create a tenant, choose property, dummy data again. I'm using Chrome extension like form filler or something. Click save. And let's see. It gets longer, so probably it is sending email. So yeah, the tenant is created, and yay, I get the email. And the email looks like this with default Laravel template. Hello, you're invited, those texts, and the link. The link is OK/invitation/random token. Great, now let's parse that URL and actually accept the invitation. Okay, so we are working on the invitation, and what I thought would be logical is not to have another invitation form and create the password. We will immediately log in with user, so log him in and redirect to change password page, which will be under middleware. So there will be separate middleware which will check if the user has invitation token, then redirect him to change password page until they change the password. So that's it. They won't access, they will see the menu items, but they won't access anything until they change the password. So let's do that. In the invitation, I guess we need to rename that into process invitation. And in register controller, let's create that public function process invitation. And we have invitation token as parameter. Now, what we need to do is we need to query if that user exists. User where invitation token this first. Actually, first or fail. If it doesn't exist, then it will return to 404 page not found. So by here we have user, and then we do this auth login using ID, user ID, and return redirect to route change password. I think it's here, change password. Yeah, this change password. Auth change password. Auth change password. Right, this, and then one more thing we forgot is to attach a role to a user. So when we're storing the tenant, we need to have this user role, I think this attach role number 3, and I think it's roles. Let's change, no, that's role, that's many-to-many relationship, and we are using pivot table to attach role number 3. Okay, let's change that. I'll log in again as a landlord. And I will create another tenant with dummy data, but that email is important, so let's copy that. And I should get another invitation email, and that thing should work. Fingers crossed, let's click it. We are good, we're logged in, but I'm not redirected to change password for some reason. Oh yeah, of course, because I'm logged in as landlord now. Now I need to log out and only then click the link. Excuse me. Right, let's do it again. Accept invitation. Should be logged in. Yes, and now I'm redirected to change the password. Now I see more menu items, but I cannot access them. Actually, I can access them, but we should restrict that. So let's make a middleware. Let's go to Laravel middleware. I don't remember by heart how it's done, so let's dive into documentation. Let's create a new middleware. Defining middleware is here. So in Artisan we do make middleware invitation check invitation. Check invitation. Okay, right. Check invitation here, and in middleware we need to check something and something, and if something goes wrong, we return redirect to route auth change password. So what are we checking here? So if auth user invitation token I think is not null, then we redirect change password. And then we need to register check invitation on all the routes that are related to the auth and check invitation, I think is this. And I need to register the middleware. Let's go back to the documentation, registering global. We don't need to do it global. We need to add it here. Middleware groups. I guess we will add it to route middleware. So in kernel, this route middleware, check invitation is in check invitation class. Yep, let's leave it as this. No, actually, let's copy that as other, so it would be inconsistency. Like this. Right, let's try it out. So we are currently on change password. That should be still active, and it should be restricting us from going anywhere else. Syntax error. Right. Oh, of course. A typical error of semicolon. And yes, we are redirected back to change password. So until I change the password, I cannot access anything else, any like dashboard or anything. And the final thing we need to do here is to remove current password, because it's not known for those invited. So in change password controller, change password form, actually change password, we need to add this. So if auth user invitation token, and if not, so if it's, yeah, that. So if it's not present, then we show that field. So if the person was not invited or already accepted. Otherwise, we hide that field. So we don't need current password, we need only new password, and then also in the controller, we don't need to check the password. If hash check, so if auth user invitation token or that, then we're good. So let's try to set our password, save, current password field is required. Right, so validation, request all validate, validator, current password is required. Well, not exactly. Actually, we can safely remove that because it is checked in here. So it won't be valid if it's empty. 121212 password, let's save that. Yes, success, and let's try to access any other menu item. It should be good now. It it should not redirect. Oh, it does redirect. Of course, yep, now I understand why. We set up the new password, but we didn't clear the notification token. So if, actually here, if this, actually we don't need auth user here, we have that user here. So if the user has invitation token, we set that to null. And then we redirect. Okay, let's do that again. Password, save. Yep, we're good. And now let's access any messages. Yes, we're good. And in the database, that should be cleared. We don't have invitation token anymore. So now as a tenant, I can use the system, the invitation mechanism work, and we can move on to actually use the properties and to the functionalities like documents and messages. So stay tuned for the next videos.